Hey guys, I have 3 radios with me today. One of them is brand new, one of them came out 6 months ago, and one of them's been out for like 3 years now. I want to talk to you about the differences between the 3, especially I'll tell you everything you need to know about this X10S, all the new features that have come out, and then obviously I'll be comparing it with the X7, which is very much like this in form factor, and then I have my X9D back here, which is my go-to trusty radio that I've been flying for the last 3 years since I started flying FPV. Let's talk about these radios. Alright guys, so here's the new FrSky X10S, which is their flagship model radio that literally just came out. This is one of the very first pre-production models that was sent out to anybody, and I am lucky enough to get that. Thank you, Sven, in California at FrSky. Anyways, this radio is going to start out at $399. There's another version that's not an S, that doesn't have the CNC 10-ball bearing gimbals that I'm going to talk about later, and that radio is $339. It's called the X10, and it comes in a couple different color schemes. This is kind of geared more towards, you know, lower price point, a little more accessible, a little more ergonomic, feels high quality, but isn't as huge and unwieldy as the X12. Let's talk about some of the differences between this one and this new radio, why this would be maybe quote unquote better than the X9D. So first off, it's got a lower latency IXJT Plus RF module, which they claim has higher RF performance and again, lower latency. From my experience, FrSky has been the go-to RF protocol for me and a lot of other FPV pilots, mainly because of its ability to work well on a mini quad. Now, there's a difference between RF that works well and RF that works well on a mini quad. There's a lot of noise, a lot of tight spaces on a mini quad, and FrSky has seemed to dominate the mini quad market as far as performance was concerned for a 2.4 link. This has a wireless trainer port, which again doesn't really pertain to FPV people, but you know, if you have a novice and you have a guy that knows how to fly and you want to go out and link up wirelessly, flip a switch, and then he wants to give the novice control, and then he wants to take it back over and get the guy out of a sketchy situation, you can do that wirelessly because of the wireless trainer port inside here. This has an FrSky OS that it comes with, but it works with OpenTX, which I do have loaded on here, and I'll show you that just so you can see and let it freak out because it's a nightly build.
Warning. Switch warning.
The first thing that you'll notice is it has a really nice color LCD screen. Now this color LCD screen is really cool. I love it. It makes the radio look a lot more high quality than those color shifting LCD screens that come in the old X9D. But again, if you're not really into mixing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, which a lot of FPV people aren't, then this isn't really going to matter to you, because when do you actually go into the menu? Very rarely. So it's a cool feature, makes the radio pop, like it looks amazing, but I don't know if it's necessarily for the mini quad market, but a lot of people are going to love it because it looks so good and it's so easy to navigate, especially with this little wheel here that comes on the X7. The next thing that we'll talk about is that it has a built-in lithium ion battery, which is a 2S 18650. It doesn't have a detachable door on the back, like it's actually internally mounted, and to charge it you have this USB-C port here on the side. Now that sounds all cool and dandy, but with this pre-production model, it's not necessarily the best thing in the world. I'll get to that later, but just keep that in mind that it does have a built-in battery and you can't take it out and charge it on your typical lithium ion, lithium polymer chargers unless you want to take the whole radio apart, pull it out and do it that way. The last thing that makes the X10S, which is like the sport, I don't know, the baller version, it has these gimbals. Now listen to this gimbal. That is an all aluminum CNC'd Hall sensor gimbal. And this is a very high quality gimbal. It's a 10-ball bearing all aluminum CNC'd gimbal. So literally every single piece in here is aluminum. Now, whether or not that is a pro or a con, I would probably lean more towards a pro, but I can tell you my opinion on that stuff a little bit later, but I wanted to just kind of go over the features that this radio comes with stock so that you can understand what you're getting when you get this radio. Now, if you look at the radio, it's kind of modified slightly. There were 3 potentiometers here, a 6-pin or a 6-position detinted switch here. There was a really smooth, like 270-degree potentiometer here, and a middle position stop 270-degree potentiometer there. There were a bunch of 3-position switches that I took off. There are 2 here, 2 on the top, 2 on the top, and then 2 sliders on the sides. And I removed pretty much everything except this 3-position. I actually pulled a 3-position out of my X7 and put it there. And then, yeah, it's got a 3-position and 3-position. So no momentaries, but it's very much like the old Tyrannus as far as setup goes, where what switches are where, there's momentary on the side. And yeah. One last thing that I'll point out, here is the balancing point for this radio, and it does balance very well when it has everything in it. Obviously, I've taken a lot of weight out, and this is pretty well balanced considering all the weight that I've taken out of the radio, and there is a big battery. When you have a Crossfire module in the back, it balances really, really well. So let's open this thing up so I can show you guys what is inside and what I'm talking about when I say that this radio is a really high quality radio. Pop that off and we are good to go. We are inside DOS radio. As you can see here, this thing is really, really tidy. It looks super high quality inside here. Compared to the X9D, which I've opened up plenty of times, this is a very high quality setup. Even compared to like a Jetty or something, the PCBs look really nice. All the solder joints are really shiny. Everything looks great. This is that 18650 that I was talking about. It says it's actually 2600 milliamp lithium ion battery. Again, it's like two 18650s. There's that massive little IC down there. It's not little at all. And here's their new IXJT Plus module, which I don't think I mentioned this, but it has 3 antenna connections. So it has 2 internal transmitting antennas, and then it has 1 external, that's a detachable SMA on here. Now, whether or not that's the best thing in the world, because it comes with this really nice antenna, but I can tell you from experience that like if you wanted to run an aftermarket antenna like Peter the Penetrator here, it doesn't screw on because it's kind of recessed inside there and it just doesn't work. So I don't know what kind of aftermarket antenna you're gonna be able to screw on there, but it does have a detachable antenna if you really wanted to take the antenna off. And I guess you could route out the outside and screw the Peter the Penetrator on there if you really wanted to, but I don't think a lot of people are gonna be taking Dremel tools to their new $300 or $400 radio. If you look down here, there's actually the trainer port, or not the trainer port, the trainer, this is the wireless trainer antenna down here. So it's again built in inside. And then the back of these gimbals, you can tell everything is super nice. All the CNC aluminum just looks fantastic. Hopefully you like what it looks like. One other feature that needs to be mentioned, it does have a JR port on the back, so you can plug in whatever you want, i.e. if you want to run Crossfire, you can plug it in like that and it works. All right, so let's compare the radios that are here. This is the Taranis X7, which is their very low budget model, it's $100. This is the X9D, which is their pretty much middle of the range. I think it starts around $199, $200. And again, this one's highly modified, so don't think it comes like this out of the box. And then this is their new X10S, which is the radio that I've been talking about a lot on this video because that's kind of what everybody wants to know about. They want to know about the new flagship style radio, the Horus X10S. So let me talk about what it comes with. This is the X10S again. I'm just going to kind of talk about what makes this different than the rest of these guys. So it comes with this really nice hard case, which is awesome. It's a little big, but you know, everything's bigger. The radio is bigger, so obviously the case has to accommodate the radio. So you open up the case, it's got this nice little pouch here, got a little radio holder, it's got the charge holder, it's got this little neck strap thing, and it comes with a charger. Now, I had mentioned that the charger and the charging situation was a little wonky. So this is a pre-production model, so don't think that this is going to be the actual way that it is, but you know, it may be. So right now, you have this battery charger, which is the wall wart, and then there's this little box here. So this barrel connector, this is very similar to this. This is the standard Taranis charger. So you have a barrel connector. The barrel connector plugs into this thing, which this little thing, if you lose it, you are screwed. Because that USB-C port on the bottom of this radio does not just charge via USB-C. You can't plug it into your computer and charge it. You have to have this little thing, and then you have to have this thing. So for me, that was kind of like, this is a deal breaker for me as far as using this radio as a travel radio, because if you lose this and you need to charge your radio, you're pretty much screwed unless you pop the radio apart, take the battery out and plug it, and that's just a huge pain in the butt, so I'm not gonna do that. But this is a charging circuit for a lithium ion battery. They were gonna run it inside so that you could just plug this into the radio, but in doing that, this thing gets pretty hot, so they decided against that because of the heat reasons. So that's what I've been told anyway. So you plug this thing in, you plug this into the wall, and then you plug this little box into the USB-C port, and then that's how you charge the X10S. Again, that is pretty much the most convoluted thing I've ever seen in the world for charging, but again, pre-production model, don't judge it based on that, but I judged it really harshly on that. So don't wait for the production model to come out before you say anything. I've been told they're gonna change it. Again, these radios are very different. They're in very different price brackets. I have the budget model in the middle, which is the X7, which is around $100, and then I have the X9D, which starts around a $200 price range. And then you have this, which is the X10S, which is the $399 like flagship style radio, which is a little more, I mean, obviously the Horus X12 is the flagship, if you want to call it that, but I consider this a flagship because the X12 didn't do anything for me. It was too big, it just didn't really work. Not a lot of people adopted it, so this is probably going to be more adopted than the X12, and I can tell you those reasons, but let me kind of delve into what's different between these. So again, this comes with potentiometer gimbals. You're really gonna like that if you're a thumb flyer. This doesn't necessarily work for me. It's a super cheap radio. Like, you cannot get a better radio for the price. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that out there. I don't care what radio you're looking at. If you wanna spend $100 or getting into the hobby or something, this is the best radio you can possibly buy for the money. Now, it's not the best radio out there, obviously, because you're spending $100 on something that's got a lot of technology packed into it, but this radio works really well for a lot of people. It's super lightweight, it feels good in the hands, it's got an external JR module, it's got a battery. You can even put double A's in this thing. You can run an external lithium ion internal lithium ion, or you can run a lithium polymer battery. It accepts 2 to 3S. I think so, 2S for sure. And you know, it's got great range. It's got a USB port on the bottom. Like, I use this thing for flying sims because the USB port's on the bottom. I don't know why on the X9D and on this radio they put the USB port on the back, so you're like, oh, I want to go get a drink, and it cracks the USB port off. So this thing is phenomenal. I can't fly it because when I fly pinch like this, or hybrid thumb pinch, I actually hit the switches up here, and the radio's a little wide for me. It doesn't fit in my bag as tidily as the X9D, so that's kind of the reason why I don't use it. But with that being said, it's not a pro model radio. Kevin Darty, Stinger Swarm, flies with his radio, loves it. I love his. It's set up really nicely. I am completely on the page of modifying the radio to fit your needs. Nothing out of the box is going to fit someone's needs perfectly. So don't think that, you know, you're gonna buy this radio and be like, oh, I love it. You might want to put the X7 gimbals in it, which are the Hall sensor gimbals that you can get for this. There's a lot of upgrades that you can do to this radio to make it really nice. But again, you're gonna be adding to the price, so it's not the $100 radio that you originally purchased. Now, the next step up is the X9D, which is, again, this is a highly modified version that I've had for, I don't know, a year and a half now, and it's literally given me no issues whatsoever. I put the SMA mod on the top. I have a video on that. I'm sure people are aware of that and have killed many radios trying to imitate that modification. I don't know why it's that difficult, but again, a lot of people are learning how to solder in this industry. So, you know, you learn, you live, you learn. I don't know what to tell you. It's just kind of a thing you do. You try something, it doesn't work, you retry it again. I apologize for people that have killed radios because of my video, you know, whatever. So M9 gimbals, great Hall effect gimbal. That kind of revolutionized the X9D when they brought out the M9 because it had potentiometers, and that was a big fuss with people that had the X9D was the gimbals over time. And I've had this now, I've been flying for 3 years, and a lot of the gimbals eventually would start to like wear out around center position, and then the gimbal would be like, oh, 1500? No, I'm at 1530, and then your quad would start to turn or something like that while you're not putting in an input. So Hall effect gimbals, really, really nice gimbals. They feel great. I love the plastic feel. I like the give on the end of the plastic gimbals. I also like the full travel. A lot of people have asked about these new M9R gimbals. I don't like shorter travel unless it's uniform all the way around. If you're up and down and it's shorter, and then you go side to side and it's still as long, it doesn't necessarily feel as intuitive if everything is the same distance. So if you're gonna make a shorter gimbal, we should make everything short. Otherwise, I really like the full throw. So again, this is highly modified. It has a 3S LiPo inside of here that's like a year old or something, I don't know. Great radio, love it. This is gonna be my go-to radio, and it will continue to be my go-to radio. I put grip tape on the sides. I've had this stuff on here for a long time, and I painted it obviously, and my balance thing is there. Last but not least, let's talk about the X10S. So when I got this thing, it had potentiometers and switches and all kinds of stuff all over the place. I was super psyched on it. when I got it, I loved it. I found a couple weird things with it. Obviously, the charging situation is not the best in the world, but hopefully that'll be remedied before the production model comes out. The gimbals are not my favorite, not because they're not good, but because I prefer not to run aluminum gimbal. And when I talk about aluminum gimbals, why I don't prefer aluminum gimbals, there's a couple reasons. One, I don't like the clank. I don't like that. And another reason is in the winter, when it's cold, the whole gimbal is cold. Now with the Jetty, I was sponsored by Jetty at one point in time. The whole thing is CNC'd aluminum, very high quality. When it's cold out, the radio is freezing. You're trying to use something, it's like holding an ice cube and trying to work with an ice cube while I gotta be precise, but my radio is freezing, so you like need gloves, but then you're not as precise because you have gloves on, and it's just not good. So this is plastic, you're not gonna have that problem. There's nice rubber grips on the side. Like, this thing feels great. It's not gonna get cold, it's not gonna freak you out in the winter, but the aluminum gimbals could potentially get cold, and I don't like the clankiness of them. But other than that, fantastic looking radio. This is probably one of the coolest looking radios that I've ever seen. And I guess the only other thing that I had a gripe with, other than the charging situation and the gimbals being aluminum, which you can swap them out. You could put the M10 gimbals that come in the X10, which are plastic gimbals like the M9s that come in the Tyrannus, or we can get them aftermarket for the Tyrannus, was this thing right here. So this is your balance point, right? That's how the radio balances when you have it on a neck strap. A lot of people use neck straps. I personally use a neck strap. It came with this weird, like, little tiny thing that you get to hold your keys to your pants. I don't want to hold my keys to my pants. This is a $400 radio. I want it to be like in my hands. I want to be able to let go of the neck strap and not have a doubt in my mind that the radio is not going to fall and explode on the ground. So with that being said, this little tiny piece of plastic that's painted black, it scratches very easily, and it's plastic. Not saying that plastic isn't strong, but when I'm holding a $400 radio and there's like 3 millimeters of plastic between the radio being held onto my neck and then falling to the ground and exploding, I just don't like it. And especially with the little thing that they gave me, the little clippy-on thing, I would prefer it to be more like solid. There's like a legitimate metal structure inside the radio, like these two radios, that I can clip to and 100% know that the radio is not going to fall off my neck. So what I did to make it a little more ergonomic, aside from having that weird little pant clippy key thing, is I put a key ring on there, and that seems to be working, and also it's a little speaker right there, so it's magnetic, so it ends up holding it down. By chance, it's really cool, but you know, that's one of the only other gripes I have with it. And then the other thing is the detachable antenna. I think I stated this earlier. Detachable, but not really usable. Doesn't screw on. Thank you guys for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there was some useful information in there. I hope maybe a lot of people like this radio, and I'm not the only one that has the gripes about it. I like it a lot. I think I'm gonna use it in some instances, but as far as like my go-to on-the-road radio, old and true freaking X9D, this thing, the JR9303, which is what this is modeled after, was always one of my all-time favorite radios. And then they made this thing, which is basically a JR9303. Like, it just fits in my hand. I don't know, I love it. It doesn't have anything in the way. It's gonna be my go-to radio. No questions asked. But again, I'm biased because I have specific needs, and I already had a predisposed idea of what the perfect radio was in my mind, and the JR9303 was the perfect radio, and then this came out, and then it was like, oh my god, it's amazing. But again, it is highly modified from stock, so take that with a grain of salt that I have just sprinkled on there. And thank you guys for watching. I don't know if you noticed, but I got my my play button in the mail, 100,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. All the support means the world to me. This is what I do. I make videos, like this is my career. So everything you guys do, watching my videos helps me tremendously, and it just keeps me excited about doing what I'm doing, traveling and making videos for you guys. If you really want to support me, you can go and I have like a Patreon, but you know, I don't like asking for money. I might do that when I have the van, but right now the Amazon links are a really good way to help me out. If you need to buy anything on Amazon, if you just go to my page and click on the links, then anything you buy on Amazon, it doesn't have to be something you clicked on, will give me a very small kickback, and that helps me out in the long run. And then also, I wanted to state that rippingballs.com, which is my website that I've had for 2.5 years now, I finally revamped it. And it has all of my setup, my PID screenshotted from like a week ago, like everything is up to date. It's got a bio, it's got a lot of stuff about me. If you guys are curious, you want to check out the website, again, rippingballs.com. It's cool. I'm not making any money off of like that site. I just put it out there. It's information. I'm trying to help you guys out. I know a lot of people have questions and I can't answer every single YouTube comment out there. So if you have any questions and they're not in the description below and they're not on that page, then I will try to see them and I'll try to comment on them. But anyways, FrSky X10S kind of overview, not necessarily crazy comprehensive review, but definitely talking about the radio as it is. Phenomenal radio. Not necessarily my go-to, but if you want a high quality radio, I would say that one is the one. Yeah, love it. See you guys later.
What do we do it for? For the